Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. All right, everybody, I'm back. Good to be back. Thank you again to our partners, DraftKings and the DraftKings Sportsbook. Remember, click the link in the show description. Make a bet, $5 moneyline bet, $5 moneyline bet on any team that is playing this weekend. If that team wins, you get $200 in free bets. Click the link, sign up for an account, go to the Sportsbook, make your bet, win the bet, $200. All courtesy of your buddy Aaron Torres. With that said, let's wrap the show here, final segment of the show, and let's look ahead to Thursday and Friday's games. Now, it is worth noting, we are going to do an episode on Thursday night recapping what has happened on Thursday night. 4 really good games on Thursday night. But with that said, I'm still going to do a preview of Thursday and Friday. Now, we're going to hit on all 8 of the Sweet 16 games. And I'll just say this. I know it's kind of a wonky, weird bracket, but at the same time, I think we're in for a couple really good days of basketball. Again, we'll do a recap of Thursday on Thursday night, but I'm still going to hit on both the Thursday and Friday games now. And on Friday's episode, I'll give you a quick recap of where I see some of the Friday games going. But let's get into it. Let's start. And I'll say this. The first game on Thursday is one of the more interesting ones in the Sweet 16. We do go to the West region. The West region, the only region of the 4 that has all 4 of the top teams advancing to that West regional, and will open 7:09 Eastern, 4:09 Pacific, with number 4 Arkansas, the 4 seed in that region, facing number 1 Gonzaga. I'll give you the point spreads, of course, because DraftKings is one of our sponsors. All of the spreads are courtesy of DraftKings. Gonzaga opening as a 9.5-point favorite in this game. Arkansas fans, how can you not be offended? What I would say is I think you should be offended. I think that number feels a little bit high to me, and it feels a little high for a couple reasons. First of all, you guys know I'm not a Gonzaga critic by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not like they've been playing incredible in this tournament. First of all, they lose their regular season finale to St. Mary's. They do take care of 2 NCAA tournament teams at the WCC tournament, St. Mary's and San Francisco. But at the same time, in this NCAA tournament, just look at what they've done. First round game against Georgia State, they're only up by 2 at the half. They do end up going on to win pretty comfortably, 21 points. Then on Saturday, down 10 at the half to Memphis and rally to win. Now you got to play an Arkansas team that, like Memphis, is playing really, really well back half of the season. It is worth noting Arkansas has been playing much better for much longer than Memphis in a much tougher conference, going 17-3 over their last 20 games. My one concern for Arkansas coming into this one, I would say this, is that while the team itself has been impressive, I am starting to get a little bit concerned about the offensive production. Now, to be clear, you've played a lot of good defensive teams over the course of the back half of this season, whether it is Auburn, whether it is Tennessee, whether it is Vermont in round 1, whether it is New Mexico State in round 2. But at the same time, you go back through Arkansas's last couple games, 64 points in that loss to Texas A&M in the SEC tournament. Okay, it happens. Bounce back, play a little bit better against Vermont, put up 70-plus points. Then you score in the 50s. Then you shoot 27% against New Mexico State. And so that's not to discredit New Mexico State. I think they obviously were a very well-coached team, ready to go. I just talked about Chris Jans a minute ago. But at the same time, you're now going up against a Gonzaga team that has real rim protection and, to its credit, plays real defense this year. This isn't last year's Gonzaga team that had to beat you 92-91 to win every single game. Chet Holmgren, for as goofy as he looks, as weird as he looks, he is a great rim protector. Drew Timme is effective down low, although obviously defensively he is not as effective. And I look at Arkansas, and listen, you guys know I've loved Arkansas all year, loved the hell out of Eric Musselman, what he has done with that program. But the one thing that they really have struggled with is real size down low. I go back to that incredible Auburn win during SEC play. You beat the number 1 team in the country. It's an incredible night. But you go back, Walker Kessler did have 7 blocks in that game. And while you did beat the number 1 team in the country, it was in overtime. And it's not to discredit what Arkansas did. It's just to say that that was a tough matchup for them. And I think Gonzaga, personnel-wise, is very similar, probably with some better guards. So I do like Arkansas to cover this game, 9.5, but I do think that Gonzaga probably ultimately wins. I just think they're really good at the guard spots, and then they're really big down low, size and length down low, which I do think can give Arkansas some trouble. Gonzaga advances. Let's go over to the South, where the first game in the South Regional that's played Thursday night, really fun one between Michigan and Villanova. Now, I will say, not going to lie, no disrespect, Michigan fans. I was kind of hoping we got Tennessee-Villanova, but that's not a discredit to Michigan, who was the better team against Tennessee, and we talked about it on Monday's show. They were the deserving team. I don't care what the seed says. They are the team that deserves to be here. And I do think it's going to be an interesting game for a couple of reasons. First of all, Michigan's just playing, much better really over the last month of the season. Now, obviously, they took a few losses here and there, but they had success down the stretch, won some games down the stretch late, and then, of course, looked really, really, really good in their 2 NCAA tournament games. On top of that, Villanova, what have we talked about on this podcast all year? Why did I pick against them against Arizona in the Elite Eight if they do face Arizona? It's because of that size down low. Villanova, from just about literally day one of this season, has struggled with size. They played UCLA the second week of the season at Pauley Pavilion. I was there. Villanova was in complete control. And then the final 3-4 minutes, UCLA just bullied them in the paint, and UCLA ends up winning that game. A few weeks later, Villanova goes to play Purdue in that Mohegan Sun tournament in November. Villanova's in complete control. Purdue late just bullies them down low. Zach Edey and Travion Williams. Purdue wins. Baylor, physical on the wings, physical down low, takes care of Villanova. So I know we're talking about games that were played months ago, but because Villanova is not big, I just don't think they have very much margin for error. Go back to last weekend. Yes, they beat Ohio State by 10, but if you watch that game, it was a 4-point game with 5 minutes to go. Go back to the Big East tournament before that. Oh, by the way, did you pay any attention to that? Villanova wins the championship game by 6. They beat UConn in the semifinals by 3. They beat St. John's in the quarterfinals by 1. And so this is a team that plays close games. This is a team that does, to its credit, win, but they've struggled with size and physicality down low. I will take Villanova. I would not bet it. If I had to guess, I'd probably take Villanova to cover, but I think it's going to be a sweat. That's why I'm not going to bet it. I think they win by 5, 6, 7, hit some free throws late. I do think Villanova wins to advance to the Elite Eight. Let's go to the second set of games on Thursday night. And I'm telling you, we got some great games on Thursday night. Duke playing Texas Tech in that second game in San Francisco. The winner will play the winner of Gonzaga, Arkansas. And I'll say this. Texas Tech is a 1-point favorite. The Vegas odds makers, the DraftKings odds makers kind of think this will be even and balanced. I think it's going to be very much the same. And when I look at this game, I think to me, it's the saying that I always say on this show. 2 things can be true. And when I say 2 things can be true as it pertains to this game, this is what I'm thinking. I do think that Duke has looked better than I was expecting coming into this tournament. I wasn't all that impressed with Texas Tech on Sunday night against Notre Dame. Had to hold on late and survive for dear life. But at the same time, 2 things can be true. I think Duke's been better than I expected. I think Texas Tech has been worse than I expected. I do think Texas Tech wins this game. And it's not because I picked Texas Tech or I hate Duke or this or that. I think it's just a really tough matchup. Texas Tech is a much older team. They're a bunch of grown men. They have their style of play, and they, like Arkansas, like San Diego State, I've mentioned about 4 or 5 teams throughout the season, they make you play their game, and they're going to beat you at their game, and that's how Texas Tech is. You look at the stats on their defense, it is incredible. Number 3 in the country in field goal percentage defense. Number 5 in points per game allowed. And so if we even just go back to that Duke win against Michigan State the other day, which admittedly was very impressive as far as I'm concerned, I also think you can kind of poke holes in it. Duke was in South Carolina, very pro-Duke crowd, and they were down with like 4 minutes to go. So now you're far away. I think the crowd will be pretty balanced. My guess would be in a late game if Gonzaga wins, or even if Arkansas wins, most of their fans will be cheering for Texas Tech. They don't want to play Duke. Everybody roots against Duke. I'm telling you, if I'm a Duke fan, this is not the matchup that I want to see. I will take Texas Tech to win and cover the 1 point. Final game of Thursday night. Whoa, buddy. Is this going to be a good one? Houston playing Arizona. South Regional winner will get the winner of the Villanova-Michigan game. And a very interesting point spread. Arizona opens up, and not only opened up, the money has stayed consistent. They are a 1.5-point favorite against the Houston Cougars. A minuscule point spread for a number one seed that many people thought, including myself, was the best team in this tournament coming in. I do think it's for a few good reasons, though. First of all, what I would say, first thing that jumped out to me when I saw this was a Thursday night game. That is a quick turnaround for Arizona, okay? So let's think about Arizona. They play an emotional, exhausting, physical game on Sunday night. It's the last game of the day on Sunday. It tips off, I think, about 7 o'clock Pacific. It ends about 9:30 Pacific, about 12:30 Eastern, well after midnight on the East Coast. Luckily, it's a short flight away from LA or from San Diego to Tucson, but it is still a flight. They probably didn't get to the airport until about 11:30. Probably didn't get on a plane until about 12:30. Probably didn't land in Tucson until about 2:30. Then they got to wake up Monday and start their week. And then, oh, by the way, Tuesday, they got to fly out to San Antonio because Wednesday they have press conferences. So you're talking about getting into Tucson probably about 2 or 3 a.m. on Sunday and then immediately having to fly back out Tuesday. That is a quick turnaround. The schedule makers did them no favors. On top of that, you're now playing a Houston team, which I don't think any team, any program gained more respect over the course of the first weekend than Houston. We all know what Kelvin Sampson has built, but something that I've talked about and something that at some point, let's put it this way. At some point over the course of the summer, when there's nothing else to talk about, I'm going to do my definitive list of the best coaches in college basketball. Kelvin Sampson's probably not going to be number one, but Kelvin Sampson is really high on that list. And I think this was the first weekend, maybe even more so than when they made the Final Four last year, that people realize how good this guy is, okay? So first of all, think about where Houston was when he took over. They were irrelevant for 30 years. They had Clyde Drexler, they had Akeem Olajuwon. Those guys leave. They're irrelevant for 30 years. This guy comes in by 2018. They're a buzzer beater away. They lose to Michigan at the buzzer in the round of 32. Michigan goes on to play for the national championship that year. They could have lost in round 2 to Houston. Houston, a buzzer beater away from going to the Sweet 16. The next year, 2019, they play Kentucky in the Sweet 16. Tyler Hero essentially with a buzzer beater. So they're a buzzer beater away from going to the Elite Eight in 2019. 2020, there's no tournament. 2021, they go to the Final Four. This year, and we've talked about it, they lost their top 2 players in December, Marcus Sasser, Tremont Mark. You're not supposed to lose your top 2 players and not miss a beat, only that's what Houston did. Easily took care of business against UAB on Friday night, and they beat the Big Ten regular season champion Illinois on Sunday. And so you look at this game, you see a Houston team that is physical, that is tough, that is fearless. I will say, though, I do kind of like Arizona in this game. And the reason I like Arizona is because they have the size and toughness to mitigate what Houston does best, okay? I like Houston's guards. I don't think they're as good as Mike Miles from TCU. And so I think actually playing TCU probably helped them in this game because they're going to know if we don't come ready to play, if we don't come ready to bang bodies and fight and claw and scratch, we're going to end up losing this game. So I will take Arizona. I would not be stunned by the Houston side of it. If you're betting, this is probably one to just sit out. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be competitive. I do like Arizona. The other thing to keep in mind, game's in San Antonio. It's only a short ride from Houston's campus. I looked it up. I think it's about 2.5 hours from Houston to San Antonio. So that's something worth considering as well. Those are the Thursday games. Again, we will do a recap show on Thursday. We'll probably talk a little bit about some of these Friday games, but let me breeze through them really quick. First of all, early game Friday, Providence against Kansas. That is the 1-4 matchup in the Midwest region. The game is in Chicago. I will say Bill Self actually has a very good track record in Sweet 16 games. Bill Self has historically very much struggled in Elite 8 games when there is a short turnaround. John Rothstein put out a tweet about Bill Self in the Elite 8. Let me see if I can find it really quick. John Rothstein's a busy man. Let me see if I can find it. I am going to see if, let's see if I can find it really quick. We're 9-3 all-time Bill Self in Elite 8 games straight, or in Sweet 16 games straight up. Kansas is a 7.5-point favorite, but I'll say this. I don't think you can sleep on this Providence team, okay? Providence, never forget, regular season Big East champ, 27-5. Beat Texas Tech in the regular season. Beat Wisconsin. I know they didn't have Johnny Davis. Beat UConn at UConn. I mean, this is a good team. And so when I look at this team, probably wouldn't bet it. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to take Providence. I don't feel good about it because Bill Self is really good. He's got a 75% win percentage in Sweet 16 games. But at the same time, I just look at this Providence team. I think they're battle-tested. I think they're tough. I think they're unafraid. And what I will say, too, it's not as though Kansas has not been bad. It's not as though Kansas has been great throughout these last few weeks, okay? Lost to TCU late in the season. Easily could have lost a second time. That round of 32 game against Creighton, they held on for dear life when Creighton basically had nobody left healthy. So go ahead and give me Kansas in that first game in that Chicago region. I do think they probably win. I do think it is close. Next game, I mean, this is the one. There is no point spread out for some reason. I think I probably know why. But how about those St. Peter's Peacocks? They are back, and they are playing Purdue. This game is in Philadelphia, and that is worth noting for one simple reason. Philadelphia is about an hour and a half drive from Jersey City where St. Peter's is. So St. Peter's only has 2,500 students on campus. I don't know how big their alumni base is, but I would imagine anyone with any affiliation at all to St. Peter's is going to try and get a ticket to this game. And I'll be curious to see if the crowd in the stands that maybe had no rooting interest is now rooting for St. Peter's. With that said, listen, I could break down the numbers and the stats and the data and whatever. I don't see St. Peter's winning this game. I don't. And it's not that I don't like a good story, but first of all, historically, in general, when these big name upset teams get to the second weekend, it's hard, right? Because you win the big game in an upset. And then sometimes you're able to just off of the momentum and the adrenaline get the next one too. Where it becomes much tougher is when you have that 4 or 5 days off between the win in the round of 32 and your first game in the Sweet 16. That's when you go back to campus. That's when everybody's patting you on the back. That's when everybody's happy to see you. And then in the case of St. Peter's, that is when the national media descends upon you. That is when you're doing more media availabilities and interview requests than you've ever done before. And on top of that, you're also dealing with the fact that Seton Hall has a job opening right now, and everybody knows that Shaheen Holloway is the only candidate that they can go get to make their fan base happy. So you're dealing with that on top of everything else. I love the St. Peter's story. I think it ends here, but I'll also say this. I thought it was going to end against Murray State the other day, and it did not. Let's get to the late night games on Friday, the final two games. First of all, how about this little blue blood battle royale? North Carolina versus UCLA. Fight. In Chicago, the winner plays the winner of the Providence-Kansas game. And a couple thoughts here. I mean, first of all, the big story coming into this one is the health status of Jaime Jaquez, UCLA's big power forward. I should mention, by the way, UCLA is a 2.5-point favorite in this game, but their big power forward, Jaime Jaquez, went down with an ankle injury against St. Mary's, did not play late. He did not practice on Tuesday. There is video of him walking to the bus. It appears as though he's physically able to walk. Mick Cronin has basically said, if he's literally able to walk, we plan on playing him. But you do have to wonder if he is at 100%. The one thing I would say about this game, though, the one thing that does stand out to me, my hunch is pretty straightforward. UCLA is going to basically employ the game plan that they had against Gonzaga in the Final Four last year. No, UCLA did not beat Gonzaga. But at the same time, they sure as heck very much did slow it down, and they were able to keep Gonzaga kind of in a half-court game. And I do think a North Carolina team that likes to run up and down, up and down, up and down, I really do think that they are going to make sure that this North Carolina team plays in the half court. And I'm not sure that's where North Carolina is the best. Now, I don't think North Carolina is going to be as bad as they were on Saturday when they couldn't get the ball past half court against Baylor. One, I think they probably worked on their press break. And then two, on top of that, they also probably are going to have they're not probably. Caleb Love, their starting point guard, fouled out in that game. He will be ready to go in this game. And then on top of that, Brady Manick obviously is not suspended. He will be back. I'm going to take UCLA, though. I think UCLA is able to slow this game down. I think UCLA is able to do what they need to do. And I have UCLA advancing to the Elite Eight, where in the case of this scenario, they will be playing, I guess it would be Kansas, right? They'd be playing, no. They would be playing Purdue. Excuse me. I think I said Kansas, Providence would be playing UCLA, North Carolina. Correct that. That is wrong. UCLA will be playing the winner of Purdue St. Peter's. I have UCLA advancing to the Elite Eight. Final game of the night. This is the one where the winner will play Kansas and Providence. It's Iowa State, Miami. And listen, to all the diehard Miami Hurricanes basketball fans out there, I'm sorry. We're going to cut this review short. The episode's going long. I'm taking Miami. Iowa State's a great story. Iowa State was able to win 2 games when they scored in the 50s. And if we're being honest, everything broke right for Iowa State, right? You get an LSU team without a head coach. You get a Wisconsin team. Johnny Davis is banged up. Their starting point guard at Wisconsin, Chucky Hepburn, goes down with an injury. I could go on and on, but to me, I just sit there and say this just feels like a game that Miami is going to run away with. Miami, really good guard play. We saw it against Auburn. I do like Miami to advance to the Elite Eight. So those are my picks. Do with them as you please. But again, I do have Gonzaga beating Arkansas. I do have Villanova beating Michigan. I do have Texas Tech beating Duke. Houston losing to Arizona. Kansas beating Providence. Purdue beating St. Peter's. UCLA and